Are you familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy?
I'm familiar with the term.
Yeah, I don't really know much about it. I'm a psychologist. That's kind of why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically just like what you're saying. Like once you start changing your actions, then your mindset starts to change. You know what I mean? Like it's not about you don't wait for motivation to come to you. You know what I mean? You just start doing stuff, and then the motivation comes eventually, right? And that's kind of what you're saying. Like the person who takes the initiative to walk in the gym, the person to,
Space.
Start eating differently, and then it's kind of that first step,
Getting momentum,
thing. That's how you generate momentum, right? You don't wait for it to come to you. You go, you take the first step, and it's almost. I found it bizarre at first how many life lessons you can learn doing martial arts. I didn't really expect it, but it's really interesting and fascinating.
One way I put it, it's not the practice of fighting people, it's the practice of facing challenges.
Definitely, yeah.
Because while you're constantly working with someone else, you're constantly experiencing your own reactions to the battle, the roll, the sparring. How am I feeling when this person got this thing on me?
You're battling yourself more.
Exactly, that's all it is, right? Yeah. And how am I feeling when I was able to dominate? Do I have a problem celebrating myself? Do I have a problem being selfish and enjoying that? Am I too about that? Am I too, desperate to celebrate how much better I am than other people? What feelings come out of me when someone one-ups me, or I one-up them, or and then how do you deal with it when you outdo someone who's supposed to be better than you, or you get outdone by someone who's...
How gracious are you?
Right, yes, that's the word. So, it's just the litmus, it's the practice of life.
It really is.
Right? And it's struggle, and it's hard work, and it's learning, and it's growth, and it's...
And it's all those things. Sometimes people look at those things with difficulty, and it is difficult, but it's more beautiful and fun than anything else. You know what I mean? That's kind of the great thing about it, is that it's actually a fun way to start growing in life. It's not, especially I'm a person who I insist on taking the hard way. I have to just make life difficult for myself for whatever reason. And when you come in here, I don't know, I kind of quickly realized that you don't really have to do that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the way. There's more peaceful approaches for yourself, something like that.
Well, what does jiu-jitsu, the word, mean?
I don't even know.
Art of softness.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Art of gentleness.
Really?
Yeah. So, in judo, do is Tao, way.
Right.
So it's the way of the softness. Jiu-jitsu is the art of softness.
Wow.
Time! Shake hands! And the idea is to not take the hard way, but to take the soft way, which is what? Adapting.
Right. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. I've kind of been learning that for the past year.
Sure. Well, but also you have approached it. This is the thing. You could go to a place that was all about how good are you? Oh, you're the best? Okay, we're gonna look up to you. You're not good? You don't matter. Right? As opposed to a place that it's no, we're all growing. It doesn't matter how good you are relative to someone else. You have things that you're very good at, you have things to work on, and it's more about, are you growing here, but you took the initiative to see it as a journey of personal growth, and that's why you're getting that out of it.
Yeah. And
shake hands, let's go!
Maybe that's not the way other people do it, and that's fine. Whatever reason you do it for is fine, but I found I don't ever expect to be a professional fighter, I'm not. That's definitely not what it was for. It was more. But I didn't even realize when I walked in here that that's what I was gonna do, and then it just started happening. And I started getting it out of that. And before I knew it, I was walking out of here being Jesus, I have to make this a part of my life because I've never experienced this sort of peace and like just
Amazing.
unbelievable tranquil feeling, man. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it is
So
like
happy to hear that.
it is like a drug. So that's why I just wanted to say thank you.
My
Really,
pleasure.
like, I'm like, it did change my life, but I don't want to say that. I want to say it's changing my life.
Yes,
You know?
right. It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process.
It's
And
a
I'm only,
practice.
and I'm only being a year in, and it's exciting.
Right. And so, think about what it means to be 10 years in. Right? Or not even thinking in those terms, just, okay. So, I recently discovered a new activity that I really enjoy. It's kind of recreational. It's not. And it's like, I would have enjoyed that 20 years ago. I just never came across it. It's like, so what you've kind of found yourself. Everything in life, relationships, experiences, it's all about learning about yourself, learning about what you like, what you don't, right?
Oh, definitely.
So, you tried some activities and, okay, yeah, it's cool. And so you learned, okay, I like to be active.
Yeah.
And you found this, and it's like, whoa, that was what happened to me. It was hard to keep living my old life when I knew how positive, healthy, fun, social, growth initiating something could be. And then it's like going back to the life I was living before. It's like, well, this just doesn't compare.
No, right, it doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you kind of notice every second. A lot of times when you're away from the thing you love, you find yourself like longing for it.
This
right?
is it,
And
right?
there's times where you're at the gym, you're like, man, I really want to roll right now. I really want to,
Yeah.
And it's just when you have those feelings, you have to know yourself, and that's kind of what comes like knowing yourself. Like I have a degree in philosophy, right? So a lot of it is about knowing yourself.
Of course.
I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and like part of knowing yourself is like, I don't know, knowing the things that make you happy and knowing how to achieve those things, knowing how to go and get those things. And I don't know, it was just
so some people come onto the mats and they're real, they're type A's, they know what they want, they go for it, and you see that in their rolling. They get to a position, they try to like force this and that, and they and they may be even good, but the odd time or half the time, but that's their approach.
right.
And some people come in and they're real pushovers. They don't want to even grip someone's wrist because they don't want to hurt them. And both people have the same thing to learn, just different sides of it.
Right.
One has to learn to come more towards the middle and be gentler, and to adapt more, and to embrace and accept a little more, and another has to learn to assert,
Right,
and to
definitely.
impose, and
Definitely.
to, and so that's the beautiful thing. It's a balancing art, because whatever weaknesses, whatever challenges you have, you need to
come back,
balance
come
those
back
out.
to the center. And that's kind of why I
that's
find
exactly it, right?
jiu-jitsu is so metaphorical for life in general, because I really think life is a practice of balance, you know what I mean? And finding that center where you can sort of be content and not be too one way or too the other way.
Well, that's it. So many spiritual traditions talk about the middle way.
For sure.
In jiu-jitsu, like, we see that on so many levels. We see that literally in our limbs, right? We want our limbs to be in the middle. We want that inside control,
it's
right?
a physical manifestation.
That's it.
of
It's
life.
metaphysics, right?
That's it,
And that's
100%.
so. It's like, how do you communicate that to people? How do you get that across to someone who has never tried it?
Right.
That
It's
you will.
it's a hard message to convey unless you've experienced it for yourself. You know what I mean? Which is true of life again.
Yeah. Right.
But that's why I really, and I have a couple friends who do this, and I'm I heard Joe Rogan say this. He said martial arts kind of lets you utilize your human potential, right? As a human being, and I think that's the reason, because you're constantly trying to fight for that position, or get in that mindset, or you're it's a constant struggle and battle to sort of reach that perfect path or that perfect way of goodness. And whether you're on the mats or you're in the classroom or you're at your job, it's kind of it's a very similar sort of practice. It's a very similar, for me personally, you know, it's a very similar sort of, like it's almost like I have to put myself in that mindset. But the more you do this, the easier it gets, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the reason why it keeps me coming back. So.
Yeah, well, it's putting yourself into the crucible. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's dirty?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do that.
All right. Yeah. As I was saying, everyone, there's a term in, I wouldn't call it Taoist thinking, because Taoism became a religion, but there's this book, the Tao Te Ching, which is, I don't know if you're familiar, it's a Chinese philosophy book.
Yeah, like the Tao?
The Tao, yeah. So one interpretation of the term Tao is way making, about making a way, not forcing a way, not. So you're trying to go forward through all these obstacles. You could try to push through them, but just adapting and taking the gentle path, right? So like water doesn't try to force to go through a certain path. It'll trickle down whatever is the path of least resistance. And you know, not irony. Time, shake hands. Let's go one more for those who want to. You know, you said that you have to actually engage in the battle, and it's by engaging in the battle, by being proactive, by jumping in and asserting that you're going to practice this practice. You then learn, if you're open to it, you learn that the balancer of that is the way is to actually be soft.
It's to be, definitely.
Yeah.
And the thing I loved about Chinese philosophy was they had these like sage kings or whatever, and they said that the most like effective way, or like the way to be a sage king, is to do the most amount of, like, to do the most by like using the least amount of effort, right? Like that's how you know when you're really working at the highest level.
Doing, not doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wu wei.
Yeah. And it's kind of fascinating because it sounds so counterintuitive, but
Shake hands, let's go.
even as like a layman or whatever, when you get in that sort of mode, when things are going well and you're not really doing that much, it's really like